Okay, welcome all. We had an executive session earlier, started at 5 o'clock. We've completed that. The board has nothing to report at this time. And so we will continue on with our agenda. And we're now on item number 3, which is the board review and approve of minutes for January 29th. So Todd, I just have a question. I guess, I don't know if you've been doing them this way for a while and I just didn't pick up on it, but what are we gonna do down the road when we need to go back and look for something? There's like no information here.
That's what the recording is for, and I keep, so every packet that gets sent out, I keep all of those are on the server, those will be with us forever, so we can pull them back up and print them if we need to.
Okay.
After they leave the Dropbox, when they've been in the Dropbox too long, they go on the server, so they're saved and archived that way.
How easy is it gonna be to go back to a recording to look for something that you need?
The recording will always be there. If I need it, I will. If I need, if I know what date and I need to watch something, that won't be a problem.
Okay.
Not at all.
But what we're recording is decisions, right?
Correct.
That's what you're usually looking for.
That is correct.
Yeah, he's recording the decisions on here.
Right. In the minutes.
But anything else, any other discussions or
Yeah. That I would go back and look at.
he's gonna have to go back.
Yeah.
It'd be easier when reading.
Versus-
For me, it'd be. We're on. We're good, Blake.
Good.
We'll
Thanks,
talk.
Blake.
So yes, I mean, these are what's required by statute. So that was the conversation we had when we brought the video camera online. So it's easier to use the video recording than it is to use this audio recording.
Sorry.
And those they'll always be available. So that's just, I guess, coming.
Okay. All right, any questions on the minutes presented? Okay, if not, we'll take a motion to accept them as presented.
Motion.
Second.
You can't, you weren't here.
Oh, I wasn't here, that's right. Sorry.
Dan, can you second? All right. All those in favor? Aye. 4-1.
Good question, though.
Board review for January's financials, Matt.
I wanted to start out with saying that I'll have the budget into them for February. For these statements, I just compared them against January of last year. So as far as revenues go, we were down about 1 million kilowatt hours in sales. And I had just, I think, a couple notes for expenses. We were up a little bit in customer accounting and collections, and that was because we sent up a paper notice to our customers about our new online bill and payment system. In administration, we had a couple of timing issues, so we paid our general liability and property insurance in January this year. Last year we paid in February, so they missed each other. And then on the workers' comp, last year we paid quarterly, but this year we paid it all at once. So that's what I have for notes on the revenues and expenses. And I do have another note on the delinquent accounts when we get there.
So revenues being down for this year, probably because of the winter last year and how harsh it was.
Weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyone have any questions on the revenues or expenses? Okay. Statement of revenues. Everyone fine with that?
I just had one question on that. I guess it's, oh, maybe it's on the next. Give me 1 sec. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you.
And statement of financial position.
I have a question there.
Yep.
Could you just explain for us, Matt or Todd, how do we derive the surplus number under equity? And what is the current year excess revenue? What's the math that gets us to those numbers?
Yeah, so surplus is, if you will, kind of a running total of equity for your business. And the current year excess over revenue, or it can go the other way around. When I close the books at the end of the year, that gets added into the equity or taken away from it. So it's separate so that you can track how this year is doing.
So the surplus number includes the estimated asset value of our fixed assets?
Well,
Because it's not only cash, we know that.
yeah, so what makes up the surplus would be all contributions that we've received over our lifetime for projects that we've done. The long-term debt that we pay gets subtracted out of that to the good. There are some deferred outflows and inflows in there that relate to our pension plan. The fund reserves for our bonds are in there.
So it's assets minus liabilities, and then you break it out into current year versus everything else?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Delinquent accounts, Matt, you said you had something else on that?
I do. So, for January, we had $206,000 in accounts that were past due. So past, 1 to 29 days. But when I looked at that, we had two commercial accounts that paid late, basically like 1 or 2 days late, and they total $54,000. So if I take the $54,000 away from the 206, I get to 152, and that 152 is 11.7% of sales. So I wanted to let you know that those commercial accounts had paid. It's just that at this snapshot in time, they were still outstanding.
Which is still higher than last year by a little bit, but...
Yeah, it would be half of a percentage point, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does that 2018 number take into account what we wrote off last year?
That 2018 account balance, it still has those big write-offs that we just did. So that's why when you look at 91 plus, you see, oh, for this year it's lower than last year, and that's because of the write-offs that we just did. So they're in 18, they're not in 19.
Any other questions on this page?
Cash on hand, how are we doing with that? 37 and 47?
Yeah, we're at 37 because we've been building up our capital big project fund. So we're still trying to get 90. With our new budget for this year, our target is we're shooting for 3.2 million in cash. Last year, I think it was a little less. It might have been 2.9 that we were looking for. But on the next page, if we factor out all those set-asides that we have, that we've created as funds, we have 58 days.
Yeah. Does that also include, going back to, for this month, the cost, extra cost for Summer Street project? Or was there any other extra costs?
Well, so the short answer is yes. So within our financials are the cost for...
So that would affect 37 days.
Materials. It's already net of that, if you will. So the work that we've done so far is already included in that 37 days.
You know,
There's no big amount.
in November, we had 44 days, 44 and 55.
Yeah, we did, and then we put about 150K into the capital reserve. So the idea
They're
is,
playing this balancing act
well,
right now.
you don't want to rock it for the 90 days and then you got to spend it all.
Right.
Well, that's what, I was wondering how much was spent extra on the Summer Street project.
Oh, I see. Well, I can get you an accountant for that. We'll keep track of it. It's not that big.
And the last page is the hydro statement.
Duff, you had one more?
Oh, sorry.
The cash capital of 400,000, is that the item that you were, that's our budgeted number? Is that right?
No, it's not our budget number. It's what we've actually accumulated so far
In a cash account?
in the account. Actual money.
And we've accumulated that at the direction of the board because you guys have decided that's how much we should accrue in a capital account? How did we get to the 400,000?
Well, we're trying to get it to the biggest balance that we can while still trying to stay on track for our 90 days. So we started out with 250, and then Todd and I decided, well, we could put another 150 in there. So we periodically add to it in a way that's responsible and doesn't cause our days of cash to really super fluctuate.
And is that where you're planning on using the money for like Ross Road and?
Yes. So we're doing it in a way that is going to affect, when we get our bond reviews, we want to make sure that we're still moving in the right direction for the bond reviews, but we also want to be able to start working on these projects that we've been talking about that we finally have capital to do.
So where are we on a capital budget then for the expenditure of this 400,000? Have we already said spend all this money this year on capital?
No, I gave you a list at the last meeting,
Yeah.
and that contains certain items, and as we go through the year, you'll get a report on Ross Road project tonight as to what that entails. Once I have the figures on that for next month, the actual figures, then we'll be able to project further. So I gave you a list of things that we need to pay
Didn't
attention
you give us
to.
that in the budget process, or was it
We gave you,
post-budget? In my
just
mind,
asked
I
for-
was thinking that was our
that was
budget.
post-budget. We asked for 250 in the budget to be
Set
to
aside.
set aside for capital projects. So that was figured into the budget, and now I'll come to the board with projects that need to be done when I have a cost estimate that I can revise, and we'll be able to move further out to 2020 once we know how revenues are going this year, as well as the projects that we're planning to do for this year with those costs.
So we have 250 capital in the budget, you put another 150 at the end of the year into the capital fund,
Correct.
I guess you could say.
Correct.
And we'll be looking at each project as they come up.
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Okay, the hydro statement. Do you have any questions? And then you're all set, Dan? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Todd, inform the board on the 2002 spare bucket truck bid results.
One bid was received by Houston Property Services LLC in the amount of $15,026. June will be picking the truck up tomorrow.
Perfect. Very good. Update on the Ross Road project planning process.
This will lend to another conversation we're gonna have about GIS services, but you can pass this around. I'll hold this here for Duffy. Then I'll read you what I wrote, just so that you know. Those are the blue is what's projected to be
Daniel.
added. So that cyan color is what will be added when you get to the top right, when you're in the northeast. That is all of Arundel that'll be picked up at that end. So the air brake, I have to go stand here now.
Right.
So currently this will be reconductoring from here in. This is all covered by the Ross Road Circuit now. We are going to, this is actually, Kevin marked this incorrectly, so this line is covered by the Rosswood circuit, all this yellow, but this is not. This is covered by the Water Street circuit.
The
Right
old
now,
Elway Road.
the old Elway Road and there's some businesses in there and some houses in there. So we're also going to incorporate this. So that's why it's now yellow. It should be cyan right now. I just like that word. So we're gonna pick this up here. And Gendron Lane. Gendron Lane is on the Water Street substation
So
as well.
blue as well.
That'll be
Cyan.
cyan. So this will all turn cyan. We wanted to go past Shoppers Village and we can't because we have phasing issues at Shoppers Village. There's two circuits that come along out of Water Street and come along here. The only spot we can dead end those is after the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, Talbot's. Right there is where we would have to stop. So we'll pick up Hannaford, we'll pick up Farragut, we'll pick up Powder Mill, we'll pick up all of Route 1 to the Lobster Company, which is our last business. We'll pick up all of Limerick Road and Arundel that we serve about a mile, and we'll pick up all of the remainder of Arundel on this side of town, which is the old Post Road, River Road, Sinnott Road. That whole area will be picked up. We're calculating how much
Picked up
load.
meaning on the West K circuit.
That'll be out of West Kennebunk. So that will all be determined how much load will be shed from Water Street to West Kennebunk as soon as we get the details of this worked out. We're considering potentially making the stop at Route 1. We don't know if this can happen yet because of phasing issues, but we may be able to put an air brake here and serve everything to that way of Route 1. The west of Route 1 could be served by West Kennebunk and retain this off of Water Street circuits currently. But we're also concurrently reorganizing the circuits on the Water Street substation, consolidating circuits, removing circuits that aren't needed to make more space, because there is, with all the doom and gloom about Water Street, the saving grace there is the oldest operating transformer at Water Street is circa 1998. The newest operating transformer at Water Street is circa 2007. So the circuits are, the transformers are okay. They're holding up well. They're being very closely watched, as was part of the capital plan, but capitalized items that were also within the budget is we're replacing we've ordered a voltage regulator that needs to be replaced. Last year year before, when the incident happened at the Water Street substation, it was the voltage regulator. Took the voltage regulator offline. Circuit 11's been running unregulated, but there's been no issues. We've ordered the voltage regulator, that'll be replaced. So in the consolidation of the circuits, there's 8 circuits that come out of Water Street. We're trying to reduce it down to about 4.
Those 4 right where your hand is are gonna stay with Water Street?
This whole thing will stay with Water Street currently. And then, so what we'll do is we will consolidate the circuits, which will allow us to take some of the primaries off of Fletcher Street. We'll be able to actually reduce the wires that are out there because we don't need them anymore. That'll be a slow in-house process that the guys have been working on and will continue to work on. Currently, we've got an issue on Fletcher Street because there's a circuit that's running from Water Street, and then there's also a circuit running from West Kennebunk on the same line of poles. There's about a dozen poles that have two-way power running on them out of 2 different substations, which the crew is very aware, but it's a problem we need to get rid of. So the intent is to shed as much load as possible off of Water Street, and that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to grab my notes.
What's our percentage of Water Street and West Kennebunk?
The percent
2/3,
utilized,
1/3?
right now, it's about 50-50. It is how much power we serve from each one. We're at about 35% capacity, 40% capacity at West Kennebunk, so there's a lot of room for shifting that way.
Yeah.
I'd say about 60% capacity at Water Street. So that's
So if
how
you put this in, what would it then be at Water
that's what
Street?
we've got to calculate exactly how many amps of power. It's going to be probably another 30 or 40 amps. If we did everything that we had planned that was planned in the 2015 report, we would still be 60%. We'd be about 60% capacity at Water Street. I mean at West Kennebunk, and we could get down to about 30% capacity here at Water Street. Depending on timing, if you go on a baseline year-long basis, that's okay. West Kennebunk peaks in the fall for their substation. Water Street peaks New Year's. So we're also looking to see, you know, as we're doing these reductions, that we're not going to short sell ourselves and not be able to handle the peak load for this substation. So those are the numbers that are being worked in the background with the engineers to make sure nothing's getting overloaded. So right now, the engineering estimate, the cost of engineering estimate, it was not to exceed 20,000. Jeff Fenn said 5 to 10, you should be good unless we run into any serious issues. So that was kind of a relief to me because those engineering costs can get pretty high. We've done a survey of the poles. There's about 10 to 15 poles that'll need to be replaced before the job can be done. Right now, Kevin and the engineers are working to determine what the best wire size is. We can use Hendrix wire, we can use 336, we can use AAC, AAAC, we can use a bunch of different ones. So we want something that's the most durable that'll handle that with the least outages. They're coordinating with engineering on areas that can be added to this circuit. So there may be more, like I said, we might be able to pick up Merrifield and Longview. That'll be determined.
So you can't come in the back way like you are right now?
We can, but you need to have visual open, which is called a ground operated air brake. You have to have something that physically separates that line. So those are the things that will add to the cost.
This all come from West Kennybunk.
This will all come from West Kennybunk. We're planning the location of the visual opens. Thus far, there's currently an air brake at the end of the Ross Road. That'll get moved. There'll be an air brake here, which will create a line of demarcation so that the power will no longer go that way. It'll head into town. We've already got switches and air brakes outside of Murray Orthodontics, which would allow, should something happen at West Kennybunk, we could close in these air brakes, open this air brake, and once again serve from Water Street. And we could also, worst case scenario, do the same thing and back serve to the corner of Ross Road. So these are things that are
Redundancy.
there is an air brake there. We're looking at three-phase phasing issues. There's 2 locations that we're aware of. The Lobster Company may be problematic. They need to pay attention to the phasing as they do the transfer, because if you have the phasing backwards, field side, street side, it burns motors. The estimated material cost to do the project is approximately $100,000. We'll refine that by the next meeting. Asplin has been consulted. They will come in before the trimming, before the project gets done and do the trimming. And the complete bid package is expected to be to the board before the meeting next month, so that it can be considered whether or not to go out to bid.
And were we anticipating what the full cost will be?
We were thinking 250 to 300. We may come in better than that. I don't know what, Kevin's already ridden the route with 4 contractors. Coots Brothers, USA Construction, On Target, and Evans Line Construction. He's got one other company that's coming in to ride it just to get familiar with it. And then when the bid goes out, we'll have a pre-bid meeting to go over it once again with everybody, so everybody knows what the bidding line. Yeah.
Them later.
Does anyone have any other questions on this item? Seeing none. Thank you, Todd.
You're welcome.
Update to the board on the solar project.
We do have a link on the homepage now that shows how much solar is being generated. If you go to the homepage of our website, right there in the top right corner, there's a link that brings you to that generation data. Solar array is up and running, no further issues. It was actually in pretty full generation today. Jay said that it's in one day generated more than your house has done in its lifetime. So they're still calibrating and troubleshooting electronic issues on their end. I raised the question, I think it was on Monday, if I'm reading this correctly, we're generating in the moon, and he said no, that it's still being calibrated. So they've got some troubleshooting issues to take care of. The site will remain secured with access gates locked when no DG personnel are present. Currently, there's people in and out of there working. They'll put signage up that says, do not enter. People aren't supposed to be in there. That gate's going to get closed. Final grading and landscaping will start as soon as the spring thaw happens. They've already ordered materials and foliage to get out there. It's just waiting for the weather to break. Ribbon cutting will be scheduled upon final landscaping completion, estimated in May or June. And the village is working on an article for March or April, and the project it was a project of note in the town EDC blog, Kenny Won't Get Work, this week. So it's moving along.
Good news.
Article in the paper.
Yes.
There was an article?
Yep.
Which
Got a
one?
picture of you.
No, that was
Yeah.
that's the teaser. Shelley likes to send out teasers about the projects. So
Which paper was that?
Village. Shelley Wigglesworth
Oh,
is
nice.
the who's writing the story, and she sends out little teasers to. She does that to see what kind of questions are up there, so she can make the article.
All right, drawdown on the dams.
So we are going, weather will determine the drawdown time frame. The ice and the spring high water levels have to mitigate before we can actually plan them. We're informing the board that so that you're aware that this is coming up. So we had planned a drawdown in October of 2018. That never happened because it rained. FERC wants the inspection of the void that the divers found at the toe of the dam, the toe of the spillway. So we need to do that drawdown. The well point at Dane Perkins, we keep losing, and he can't get water to the thrust bearing. So we need to drop the water down. Nobody can go under there. It's not safe to operate below water while there's water there, even if you close the head gate. So the well point need to be replaced. Can't access without water level reduction. Dane Perkins visual inspected, needed the sub-water level running gear to assess noise coming from the runner. Can't access that without the water level reduction. Once again, FERC ordered us to follow up on the sluiceway and upstream and downstream. FERC ordered the toe of the sluiceway. So the top of the sluiceway and the toe of the sluiceway need to be inspected. Twine mill butterfly valve, which must open to allow water to enter the generator, is stuck. The inspection and assessment and repair cannot be performed without water level reduction. It's not frozen. There's something that's causing it to bind that needs to be either dislodged or it needs a visual to know what is going on under there. The relay and overspeed issue cannot be properly troubleshot without operating the generator. AC Electric came and they didn't know what the issue was. They couldn't determine. There's a relay somewhere that doesn't work properly. We can't get water to the generator to confirm which relay it is. That will be inspected and repaired and determine what to do next. And we've got no date provided by the consultant on return assessment of Kessler, and that is still locked out, tagged out, and not operational.
Didn't he say in mid-March?
He said
45 days.
he did. Okay, I called him a few times. I haven't gotten any message back. I understand he's pretty busy this time of year.
The
But
next
month. Okay.
First of the month, he's coming.
Any other questions on this report? Yes, that's got it.
So when do you anticipate the drawdown? What month?
I don't know at the moment. I'm going to look at the records to see if we can determine. I don't want to have to wait till April or May. I really don't. We can't run until these things are rectified, so it's going to depend on the weather.
Well, did you want somebody with inspections going on too at the same time of drawdown, so you have to give people a heads up?
We've already given heads up to the people that we need, other than Rob. I can't, like I said, when I get to talk to him, then I'll explain it to him and see if it's something he's interested in assessing.
Is there any relationship between, potential relationship, good or bad, between this proposed drawdown and the possible studies that may have to be done, the environmental studies for AFH?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Maybe later on when I can talk to you about the overspeed, really.
Absolutely.
All right, general manager's report.
Summer Street poles, we've got 19 of 28 set, 10 transfers are complete. Tree trimming will be done next week. They expect to complete the project by May 2019, so 9 more poles. 18 more transfers to be done. We took an outage today at Landing Drive and on Cheshire Meadows so that we could do the transfer of underground. The underground riser poles are problematic, so we've got those transferred. Flaggers are coming in next week to continue that work, weather permitting, but we expect to be ahead of the town's schedule on that. Total e-bill subscribers to date is 841. This says 801, but 846. We've collected $68,900 on credit cards, and one of the comments that we got quite regularly in this sign-up process for e-billing is the cost of the fees associated with using a debit card. So yeah, I had to think outside the box on this one, and I actually surprised myself. We do a sign-up for auto pay on our website, and I had Kathleen develop another super form so that people can pay with a debit card one time on our website without a fee, because a debit card is associated with a checking or savings or a checking account, just like a checking account is, and so they just enter that information in. They're able to pay with their debit card through our website instead of the e-bill site, and we don't charge them any fee for that. And we've collected $17,000 on that since not this past Friday, but the Friday before.
People can't pay with credit cards.
They can pay with credit cards.
But do the credit companies charge you?
No, we have nothing. We're not a POS. We're not a point of sale system. They go to their website. They have to pay a 3% fee plus 35 cents. We don't collect that.
On the credit card side, when you're putting in your payment and stuff, it doesn't give you the ability to schedule a payment.
It does not.
Is that a possibility, or?
Not on the credit card side of it because of the recurring fee. They don't. We can look in to see if it can be done, but currently it's not available.
That would be handy if they would.
Right. Because I went in and I just went in to try it out.
Yep.
Paid $50 in fees, but
you get your rewards points.
I got my rewards. I'm taking another trip on Thursday. But yeah, it doesn't allow you to schedule a payment. So if you're paying your bills ahead or doing something and you want it to come out on the due date, versus when you're processing it, it doesn't allow you to do that.
All right, let me look into that and see if it's something we can ask them to do or what it would cost to do.
Do you still get a mail bill?
If you sign up for e-bill, you do not get a mailed bill, you just get an email.
Okay.
And then you can print it off if you want.
Get your bill.
So,
At your own expense.
Yeah.
correct.
Upgraded charging stations. Charging station chargers have been ordered. They'll charge the user's vehicle about half the time of current setup. We're not getting any usage, so it's $600 per unit. I talked to Laura Dulce today. We're gonna install theirs as well and then advertise that those are available and upgraded because they just don't get any use. These will be about twice as fast, half the time you charge, and I think it's a worthwhile investment to try to get some usage out of those charging
And these are just at the two...
Just our two hours.
Not up on the turnpike?
No, those are top of the line.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, right now the Turnpike has 8 Tesla north and south, and they have the ability, I don't believe they've installed them yet, I could be wrong, but they're also installing 8 non-Tesla level 2 charging stations there as well.
Why are we doing the other one?
Just for convenience for the community.
We're paying for it?
We installed the one at the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, we own them both.
Yeah, we own them both, so we're gonna do them both. And then, go ahead.
Never mind. Carry on.
Okay, so you're wondering why we're
Same timing.
moving things around here. We're going to start working with Corson GIS, who works with the town and the sewer district and the water district. And I've worked with Corson before on the GIS mapping that's on our website. We have a very disjointed work order system and maintenance tracking system and service order system and inventory system and timing system. So Corson is very inexpensive. Compared to some of the products we've been looking at. I've done some research online and I can't touch the price that Ray is offering KLPD. I think it has to do somewhat with his familiarity with the area and the base layers that are already there. But what this will do is this, we have a GIS system that is kind of independent of everything else. This will bring our GIS system and our maps all into one. Track inventory, track time, track work orders, and keep a record of maintenance and ages of the equipment that's out in the field, which will streamline the process of getting to the depreciation study and to bring everything together. For very little money, I'll have a price to the board just so that you're aware. It's well within my purview to do this, but it's going to be night and day. We're moving things around here because I don't want to have to show you rolled up maps anymore. And Matt and I fight about, we don't fight, we fight with this room quite regularly because it's a horrible shape. We can't get, you're either all looking at each other and you have to turn around to look at a board, or we have a straight line. We're going to find a balance, but we need to have a board that the board can look at and just bring up these maps. Then I could bring you up the map and show you Summer Street and say, these are the poles that have been, everything will be there. Red dot means it hasn't been changed, green dot means it has been changed. If somebody calls and has a question about what circuit am I on, you can populate circuit 1 and send them the map and say, this is the circuit you're on. The board will have a lot more information, we'll have a lot more information, and it'll help us on, maintenance issues. We can set maintenance tasks in there for the crew to go out and inspect every pole within 6 months. Our work orders will run through their inventory. They'll simultaneously mesh so that when you've completed a job, everything's there already. You just click done and the invoice is generated. It's going to streamline everything and bring us into the next century. The guys will have a tablet. If they're doing dig safes, they'll be able to take that tablet out, know where our facilities are, and know that they're accurately in that location when they're marking. It's an infinite upgrade in the way we're operating.
Which is what we've been looking for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is all a computer-based
Yes.
system?
Yes.
Maintenance and repair?
Yep.
Showing everything. You're just going to put in your data?
Yep, everything.
And give out a work order?
Correct, yep.
And completion?
Yep, completion when it's complete. The administrators, the
And
only
what are you doing now? It's all by hand?
paper, yeah.
Paper?
It's all by hand, spreadsheets, it's cumbersome.
Right. We've been after this for
And do you have a cost estimated?
We're looking at about, the initial rollout of the entire program is about $2,000, and then $150 a month.
Right.
Getting more as
Who's going to put all the data in?
we have a lot of the data in the GIS, but Corson is going to do all of it. They'll ask us what needs to go in there and what we want, but it's all going to be done.
Nothing.
Yeah, so it'll be a very, very nice one to roll.
This all stems from GIS.
The base layer is all GIS, and so GIS isn't friendly with other programs. So he brings in a GIS base layer, and he's programmed software that is a value added to the GIS. So he has a global GIS certificate. He works with the state of Maine. They do biennial flyovers with high resolution LiDAR. He uses those as one of his layers on the maps, but the base layer map is a GIS-based program.
So you're saying he's also, this is the same program they're using, the town engineers are using, and sewer and water?
Yeah, the town is just starting like we are.
Okay.
Sewer is pretty advanced. They're getting really, really good things out of that program. So I was invited to a meeting where they're rolling out the inventory and work order. Matt and I went, and we were just like, this is a no-brainer.
When do you anticipate it being installed?
It's gonna be a phased plan. So we're gonna start with the base layers and timekeeping, and then we'll work our way. It'll probably take, depending on how quickly everyone can grab it. He said the 15% of his clients, he said nationally it's about 70%, but 15% of his clients, these rollouts fail because they try to rush it. Everybody butts up against it. We've got it, it's gonna be a learning process.
Yeah, well, you need to do training for your crew.
Correct. So maybe a year or two for full implementation where it's, what we need, but it'll be as quick as they can learn it.
So it might even tell you where to put the poles?
It
Could.
It could. It would give them an idea. they'd have to go out and verify, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah. You know, if there was a layout job that was coming up and they wanted to determine spans and how many poles there would be, they could do a 200-foot span and say, okay, then we need to shrink the spans up, so they'd be able to do, the planning would get a lot better, and then they'd go out and verify. So,
It's a nice tool.
very excited.
All right.
Quick question, Duncan.
Yeah.
Going back to the prior subject of the chargers, could we have a one-paragraph press release that announces to the newspaper, so we might get a short story? I think people would like to know it,
Yep, absolutely.
and we've been asked to upgrade them, so it would be nice to show that.
That's the plan.
Okay.
Public comment. Peter.
I'd like to hand these out to you so you can look at them. If there's something that might be
Just hand them to Dan and we'll pass them down.
developed for something on your website. And there are 3 pages in that packet, and each one you will notice that has a different output from the array in West Kennebunk. It has the location, the latitude, longitude is pretty close. This is PV Watts program from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And I think some people would like to know the reasons or scenario that were thought out to establish that array with the tilt angle that's being used in the modules. The usual tilt used in home anyway is the latitude of the location. We're a little over 43 here, and so a 45-degree roof is really quite appropriate. When I first drove down the array, I said, well, what's going on? Because the array was at a 20-degree tilt. And then Todd, Mr. Shea, told me over the phone, but I'm afraid I couldn't follow him at the time, and not to use up his valuable time, I thought maybe it'd appear on in the website or something like that, so that people at home would not get the idea that, oh, I just put them at 20 degrees and I'll be fine. Whereas at a home, you'd want your solar thermal and photovoltaics at a close to latitude, which would probably be 45 is best. And the 45 dumps snow quite well. It doesn't happen quickly, but a roof rake helps out. The first analysis in Western Massachusetts, they were working on one phase of a grid that was supplying a housing development, and they wanted to see how much the phase went out of balance. And there was one house that got exceedingly good results. In fact, they had a net benefit to the house, and the homeowner said, oh, I go out with a roof rake after every snowstorm and I rake the snow off. And so the rest of the people didn't benefit as much as that gentleman who was a little proactive. So I think it's an interesting subject that'd be on the website. And as you notice in the results here on page 3 with an angle of 45, it's the highest payback, and over 20 years it amounts to $500,000. So I think that people who know the subject a little bit will wonder why you chose something that didn't produce that extra amount over the 20-year power purchase agreement. But in fact, the power purchase agreement is a benefit to the light company anyway, and they are not held back. And so I think it's an interesting subject.
Great. Thank you.
I got one question, if I could. Do you think they put it at 20 degrees because of maintenance? Less wear and tear? Instead of 45?
Actually, maintenance is a big subject, as you know, and when it's flatter and you get a variety of precipitation on it in the wintertime, sometimes it'll stick for weeks, and it'll put an extra load, maybe it doesn't matter. It looked to me like a very, very solid support structure. I only observed it from outside the fence without binoculars, but it looks very sound. And I'm not sure why the maintenance value, maybe it's easier to get to the wiring or something like that, I'm not aware of why they did it that way. But 45 degrees, it would shed dirt, bird visits, et cetera, onward. And I just think that even some big arrays, they drive a truck by with a blower and a spray device, and they can wash them if they start to appear to be not sufficiently productive.
Thank you.
I'll just make a quick follow-up. It's well known among backcountry skiers that most avalanches occur on slopes between 30 and 45 degrees, so I think that would only back up what Peter just said. You know, I had a question about the charging stations. Are they Tesla or non-Tesla?
Ours are non-Tesla.
Okay, no, that's a good thing. Okay. And how does that work for, I don't have an EV, but how long does it take to charge, and what does it cost the customer, and how many miles do they get out of it? How does that play out?
That varies by vehicle. The charging stations that we are providing are 5.8 kilowatts, so they'll charge a 9.9 kilowatt battery in about 2.5 hours. The ones we, 3.5 hours. The one we have now is about 6 to 6.5 hours. So it's about half the charging time. All cars vary. The size we chose is the maximum size we can place there because our limitation is 240 volts. So you can go bigger if you have 3-phase power, or if you have 480, but we don't have that available here. So we'd have to upgrade the transformer.
Okay, so if they pull in here, what does it cost the customer?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nope, it's solar. The solar gets banked and they charge, we don't charge them anything.
Oh, that's great, okay.
Do you offer coffee when they charge up their batteries?
We can tell them where to get one.
Just a quick follow-up on that. The only reason I asked non-Tesla, I happen to think the company's heading for disaster very soon. There's a tremendous amount of competition coming on the market in the next year. I think I saw Kia or Hyundai is offering a model or two that sells in the 30,000s, like 33, and they have an initial range of 268 miles, which isn't perfect, but it's getting up there. Just a quick thing about Tesla, they have like about 3 different models, and they've tried to make a low-cost one for the masses, and the problem they have is their profit margins are just, they can't do it. So the only model that they really have that would make significant profit is on the high end. The problem for them is that Porsche is coming out with what's called a Taycan in about 6 months, and at least half of the new orders for the Taycan are coming from current Tesla owners. And anyone who's seen this new Porsche Taycan says it just blows away what Tesla orders. So I was concerned about the charging stations, and you don't want to get stuck with a dead fish that no one wants. That's all. Sure. So.
Last meeting, Todd, I asked what our maintenance was for the dams, as the Wright Pierce report had budgeted in 2016 $65,000 for the dams, and in 2018 $125,000. Have we spent $65,000 in 2016 on the dams?
I just need to make a point of order. This is a public comment period, so I can get back to you on that. We don't budget from the Wright Pierce report, so I don't have that information right offhand.
Okay, but the Wright Pierce report did indicate what maintenance would require for the dams and the generating equipment if, for example, the dams were or the license was applied for. And since America First Hydro has applied for a license, I think it's our responsibility to maintain the dams and the generators until the license is in effect.
I can't disclose what is being negotiated.
Fine, I'd love to follow up. I did ask last month.
Right, but like Todd said, the Wright Pierce is a recommendation to the board,
That's correct.
and the board has done the budgets based off what the board saw for needs.
Okay,
So, at this point, but we do have a budget for the dams, and I think we talked, what was it, 150,000?
But that includes everything.
That's everything. So it's not just maintenance. We have 150,000 that the board approved for this year. That's
For the
le-
dams.
Yeah, that's legal for the dams, maintenance for the dams,
Bonds, labor.
right?
It's this year. I will.
But Todd
I will
can get you the
question.
numbers, you know, for what we did from last year and what they are for this year.
okay.
So,
Duffy, if I might?
yeah.
My recollection of the Wright Pierce report was that this was an analysis of costs that we might face under various options, rather than a recommendation exactly.
Okay.
And this board now, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, although there were some different members of the board, decided at that time that the forward-looking costs to maintain the infrastructure to produce power didn't offer a payback over the long term, which was why the board unanimously, with one abstention, decided not to go for license renewal, because we, at that time, couldn't see any viable business deal for it. So just to clarify that.
But Todd is bringing to us any maintenance needs and repairs that need to be done. Those are still coming to the board, and the board's making decisions based on those.
Okay, and the board is intending to maintain them so that they are viable for America First Hydro to take
We
over?
have 3 more years that we're looking to, and a lot depends on, I mean, what the cost is gonna be.
Right,
But, you know, right now, we're looking at, Kesslin could be upwards of $100,000 for repairs, and we haven't decided on that yet. So, but when he does the drawdowns, he's gonna have a better idea of what we're gonna need for maintenance, and then we'll decide at that point what we're going to do. But it's also part of our negotiations that we're dealing with AFH. So we're not able to discuss everything at this point,
right.
so.
I came in late, just a quick question. Todd, what was the purpose of the drawdown, or why is this being done?
Here,
I was
Just
just
give
gonna
him
say,
the
I'll give you
handout.
my, there you go. Oh,
everything's right there.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep. Any other public comments? Right. Hearing none, a board direction for 2019 meeting dates. This is something we've seen before. Have you
Yes.
done any additions?
I don't want Jay's reiteration of his comments, because at the next meeting, we're gonna go over the things you've been
I
discussing.
won't even ask a question.
So, you can ask a question, but I didn't want you to have to go through the list again. So if anybody else has anything they'd like on the agenda coming up, feel free to email me, let me know, and I'll add that on there. Sorry, Jay.
You must have been reading my notes.
No, I wasn't, I just was reading your mind.
Okay, the board's going to be going into another executive session for a personnel matter. Before we do that, next meeting is scheduled for March 26th and April 30th. Does that still work for everybody? Yeah. And then, as Todd said, if there's any recommendations that we have for the agenda,
Send it to me.
send them over. So is there anything else to come before the board before we go into executive session? All right. Thank you all.